Okay, I just want to welcome everyone. We will have people joining over the next couple of minutes. So I'm going to just keep this really short, and hopefully you will get something incredibly valuable out of this exchange of ideas. So Dr. Myberg and Dr. Mosley, thank you so much for agreeing to lead this. I think that everyone is excited about AI and figuring out how to make it part of our curriculum is going to be kind of groundbreaking. I don't think that there are a lot of universities that are as forward thinking as Jackson State is on this issue. So I'm going to stop now and let Dr. Myberg and Dr. Mosley take it away.
Setting up the screen share here. Let me go. All right. Welcome, everyone, to this faculty brainstorming session. We will get right to it. We want it to be as interactive as possible. Dr. Mosley, would you like to sort of introduce the kind of goals for the session?
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. Great. Thank you for coming. And to those who will be looking at it at another point in time, we're really appreciating your interest in the work. Essentially, what we began to do, Jackson State is a part of an AI Institute where we have been working in teams and discussing with other universities what AI could look like at Jackson State or at other institutions. And one of the things, as we began to talk about what other people were doing, one thing became clear is that faculty would really have to drive this process because there is so much to do. We say AI, but are we talking about machine learning courses? Are we talking about bias and AI? What are we talking about? And so one of our goals is to develop this interdisciplinary pathway. We are all familiar with the pathway that we have at J State, but to provide an undergraduate experience for now that might onboard somebody step by step through the pathway and give them courses across our fields to be able to ingest what AI looks like in our respective areas. We hope that all undergraduate programs will think about the kind of course they think will best fit into what we're trying to share with our students, because ultimately we know students will have to quickly get onto designing and creating and engaging spaces. So what we hope will come out of this session is that we will begin to think about, as faculty members, what AI might look like in our respective fields, and also partner with others. Some of you may already be doing some of this work already, and so you will help us vocalize some of the maybe points of progress that people might need. There might be others of you who have questions saying, I have a blank piece of paper, what do I do? And I think there's room for you as well. And any questions that you have about how far we are to go with this, or I think we've already gotten a couple of people ask about preferred providers, and so that is something that we're going to have to push a little bit more in our thinking. But, looking forward to all of us getting together, but making sure that we keep in mind that this is faculty centered and that students inevitably will be a part of what's going to be great about the work. And they will be able to probably inform us about future directions about where it should go.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited about it. This is a slide information about the pathway. I'm sure we are all familiar with them. I've listed the existing pathway themes that are there. So you can see this would be adding this in or embedding and incorporating it into those. So we're really looking at what are those 9 credit hours of a general education pathway? What could that look like when we're thinking about that AI pathway? really thinking about and looking for your thoughts and ideas on what is really fundamental about AI education. So how are we looking at its role across different industries and really addressing this growing demand for AI literate professionals? We want to be preparing students for the world, and we will really want to think about, I think with this general education pathway, what are the fundamentals of AI that every Jackson State graduate should know, regardless of what subject or discipline they're in? And how could this pathway prepare them for that and prepare them to navigate that world? So, what could it look like? It could look like some foundational courses in ethics and society. It could look at interdisciplinary applications, AI in business and healthcare and the arts, and then some of those capstone experiences. So what are those hands-on applications, those projects? Can we have students, developing applications? What can they do with AI so that they're creators of AI, not just consumers? Some opportunities, again, we don't want to be prescriptive about this. We want to hear your ideas, but ideas include, computer science. How can we introduce this in terms of technical foundations? How do we teach AI in decision-making in business? How do we teach medical diagnostics, arts and humanities, those ethical implications, AI and creative processes, and education, I think, is equally important. How are we preparing the next generation of teachers to embed AI responsibly in their classrooms? And that's somewhere I think we can really have a big impact as a university, especially on our local community in that JPS system as well. So really excited about the collaborative benefits. So how can we introduce these diverse perspectives? How can we have some innovative teaching and maybe research initiatives that come out of this? Are there opportunities to collaborate on research? A couple of case studies from other institutions just to get ideas. The University of Florida has introduced something, it's called AI across the curriculum. And so their initiative is looking at how do they embed AI into all disciplines. What they've done is they've made it mandatory for every incoming student to complete a certificate in literacy. So rather than a general education pathway, they have that certificate. The SUNY system, they're looking at general education. Again, they've added a core course in AI literacy and ethics to their information literacy curriculum that they make every, freshman take. University of Texas, they've gone a little bit bigger. They're looking at this sort of like interdisciplinary hub, right? So they've combined computer science, data analytics, humanities, business into this hub. They're actually going to offer a whole set of new courses in 2025. Some of the things I think it's good to think about are an emphasis on those practical and, like we said, interdisciplinary approaches, and also thinking through what our industry needs, what are these careers going to look like. So before we jump into the brainstorming, Dr. Mosley, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I do want to add a couple of things. So the first thing I would say is that with the University of Florida, they do have quite a bit of content that is available, and they are moving into trying to provide training to faculty who are interested in developing an AI kind of campus. They are funded by one of their graduates who happens to be the owner or the former founder of OpenAI. And so they got Gatorade. Now they have the founder of OpenAI. So their luck continues to rain down on them. So they were able to get in on, and so he came to them and said, "This is what I want to do for the campus." So they are kind of OpenAI leaning. And so what they have ended up doing, which is after some iterations of slow walking this, is they do have an internal AI that I think is related to a gator. I can't remember what the, but I noticed that LSU, University of Florida, and I think UTSA is going to do the same thing, where there's this kind of bot, for lack of a better word, that has been trained. And so one of the things I think that we've been fortunate to have is that Dr. Myberg, Brittany, has done a lot of this work around chatbots. And so she can, provide you can have chatbots for your class, so if you want to do some things as you're breaking this out, you can do that. Maybe you're only comfortable doing, a couple of weeks of your class on AI. But I do think you can jump in maybe some lower stakes ways, talking about best practices. What does, how do you use writing? I see we have a lot of great disciplines represented. So what does this look like? For example, in business, how can we help our students hone in on solving problems that will use data analytics? I will say, the other piece, that some of what we have seen in terms of grants and some of the work that has been happening in the government the past few weeks is AI driven. So they have basically done searches on all of our titles of programming and all of that. And that's how they used it to get the list. And so we should be just as mindful about doing mining data, using data that we already have. We know that we can build stronger courses using some of the information that we already have on how our students do, like in some of the stats classes and some of the math courses and some of our English courses. We know where there are hiccups. And so we could build courses in AI to address some of those needs. Some, I do see some of us moving into, like, I don't know if you all know that we have an AI agency, and Brittany works a lot with those students, so she can talk to you a little bit about that. But I can see some of our different disciplines lifting up similar laboratories, for lack of a better word, where you can, work with students, give them some primary information, and then allow them to do the work. We're doing taxes over in the business school, for open to community. There are some things we could be doing with AI to generate that in a different way, but giving students that experience at initial levels to do that work. So there's a lot of room for movement, that I hope that everybody is open to doing. So what are some things that, either big data, you want to give students some entry level exposure to big level data, and how to look at data, and look at ways that works. I see some work in humanities and music, and being able to give students some exposure to, you know, even in speech. They Dr. Ecom, I see him, he's somewhere in the space, and he showed me where you can give a 5 minute speech, and then AI will do the rest in terms of developing all of your future speeches, without giving. And it looks like you, feels like you. That's your voice. And so in speech, there would be some, great conversations that you could have about oratory and what this looks like and why this might be useful in emergency situations or other things. So there's just, I think the biggest piece of it is, can you use your current courses to build points of discussion, to build points that talk about some of the problems that we're having when AI doesn't quite work out like everything that we're doing. And then, where can we help our students be more efficient, and not say you can't use it? Because I do remember when we had a time where you couldn't bring your laptop to class, you couldn't use your phone, you couldn't do anything, and you could get thrown out of a class if you brought that. Of course, that's not the case now, but saying don't use it is like saying use it. So if you have questions about it, this is an open space. You know, I'm not being paid by any entity one way or another, but let's talk about how we have assessed in the past and what does AI, how might we change our assessments based on really what we're doing? Are there other tools that we could be using that will enhance the achievement of the competency we want our students to have?
Yeah, I would absolutely echo all of that. And I think a really important point there was, we're really interested in your ideas. Don't, the next slide, we're going to do a very speculative brainstorming thing. And like Dr. Mosley is saying, if you have a fantastic idea, let's all work together to figure out how to realize it. So if you don't have maybe the technical knowledge or skills to realize it, but it is possible and it is realistic, let's all work together to figure that out. If you need to learn how to train a chatbot, let's make it happen. So no idea is too big. Okay, we're going to play an activity. It is called Crazy Eights. My students hate this activity because it's very, very difficult to be creative under pressure on a timer. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, you are going to put in the chat, if you're brave, please be brave, type in the chat, as many things that come to mind when you read these prompts or have these questions. And this is just to get our creative juices flowing and get us all working together. So these are very future looking questions, right? What AI skills will employers expect from JSU graduates in 10 years? What unique AI courses should JSU be offering by 2050? If AI was required for, every discipline, what would that look like? What kind of social impact can we have if we train our students in AI in the next 50 years? So again, I want you to think big. There are no barriers. Imagine we have all the money in the world. Imagine we have the former CEO of OpenAI. This is called speculative thinking. So these are not going to be realistic. They're going to be out there. They're going to be future focused. Your time starts now. So as many ideas as possible. Let's get those in the chat. And I will let you know with every minute that passes. That's 1 minute down. You got 4 minutes left. You got 3 minutes left. Dr. Ali, AI will teach the class instead of us. We're going to unpack that one. Okay, you've got 2 minutes left. And last minute here. 1 more minute, and I want you to get really out there. If you could imagine this future where AI is being used for social impact and good, and we've helped our students get there, what does that future look like? Okay, awesome. I hope that was fun and not too painful. Again, it's hard to be creative, and it's hard to remove those mental barriers when we're brainstorming, right? Because we're used to thinking about like what resources do we have available that we can do something with, but what happens if we remove that mentally? So there are some really amazing suggestions in here. So I think we can just go through and kind of highlight a few of these. I put students will cite all uses of AI correctly. That's a major thing that I'm looking at. A lot to do with rehab counseling and accessibility, right? So how is AI going to help our students who need accommodations? How is that something that we can maybe embed when we're thinking about our general ed AI courses? How can we model that maybe in our course delivery for that? Licenses for the software. Maybe in the future, all of that software becomes open access, right? Information literacy. So I think that that's a really big component. A lot of universities are embedding AI in their information literary courses. So how do you use it to research, things like that? Assistive technology to enhance independent living. Industry partners to enable more internships. That came up a couple of times there. AI will teach our class and grade our papers. Maybe we can reframe that as AI will help us with our administrative tasks, right? Maybe it won't replace us, but it will help us with things like that. So before we go into our breakout rooms, because we will go into breakout rooms, and I have a FigJam board for you all to construct. So I'll start sharing a different screen. Dr. Mosley, do you want to kind of respond to anything that you saw in the chat there? Because it's quite exciting.
Yeah, I liked a lot of it. I do like this notion that AI can enhance some of what we're doing in the classroom. And so some of the work that you all are suggesting that we do could be enhanced through some tools that we're having, obviously for productivity, but also some of the work, some of the tools that we have helps people go back and forth. So even with the advisement, some of your students who come in and say, I know I want to be in this field, but I don't know what part of the field I want to be in. Brittany has done some work for her department and helping people tease that out, but there's some work that you can do in your own respective areas. And I love this notion about how to keep it balanced so that you don't lose the creativity. And I will say, I had an assignment where I asked students to attend the MLK convocation, and then after that, to provide some reflections about the leadership styles, because I teach a class in leadership, the leadership styles of Martin Luther King Jr. And so one person did do straight GPT, you could tell it was Chat GPT. And I didn't say it, you couldn't, but I was saying, you have to be careful giving all of your power away to this tool. And when you say, I don't even want to have to think about, various points in time, you really are kind of, because if you don't use it, you will start to lose parts of that engine, that creativity, that critical thinking piece. That's and so you won't even be able to use the tools as effectively as you can, because you do have to have this piece of critical thinking to go along with what you're doing. So I understand now some people are saying, hey, I need to see some balance here. And I think you can do that with some of the work in the course. So right with you all on all of that.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It's that human in the loop approach that we kind of keep hearing about is so essential.
Mhm.
So essential. And again, that is another thing that can be broken down and really explained to students and embedded in the gen ed curriculum, is that is a principle of how we approach AI. Absolutely. We're going to go into breakout rooms so that you have a chance to meet with people. We can even do some rotating breakout rooms. We can split up the time. So the next half hour is really for those sort of smaller scale discussions and brainstorming. I have set up this FigJam board, so you can either, use this or just use it to guide your discussions. So I have some suggestions for questions. For example, what are the core AI competencies every JSU grad should have? So these are sort of maybe more learning outcomes, right, that we need to establish for the gen ed pathway. Adapting existing courses. So what are you all teaching that you're discussing in your group, where you can adapt some of these skills and adapt your existing courses? What about developing new courses? And again, I just have placeholders. I'll give you a quick rundown of how to use this board in a second. And then some project ideas. So when we think about those capstone projects, does anyone have any ideas that we could all kind of share for what they would look like? So FigJam is just a big kind of digital collaboration whiteboard, essentially. So Candace has put the link in the chat. I'll put that here as well. Oh, can everyone hear me? I see no voice, can't hear you. Everyone can hear me? Okay. My internet's always in and out. So how FigJam works is you will double click on a post-it note and you will be able to type an idea in response to that particular section. If you need a new post-it note, you'll pull it from the bottom here and you can add it to the board like that. You can make it bigger or smaller. Zoom in and zoom out on your trackpad or with your mouse. To move across the board, it's this hand down here. So the hand can pull like that, and then the arrow can click. It may be that one person in your group is really comfortable with using this, and so they can, do it for everyone in the group. The main thing is that you're talking about these ideas. And we will drop in the chat, some prompts for discussion as well. So if everyone is feeling kind of confident and ready, we can go ahead and open up some breakout rooms. Any questions before I do that? Okay, here we go. All right, is everyone seeing their breakout room? Is anyone having an issue?
So if you aren't accustomed to going to breakout rooms, sometimes you have to go down to that bottom right hand corner where it says more, and there are three little dots. And when you click on it, it'll show breakout rooms. And you click on breakout rooms, and it'll tell you click here to join. Is that helpful at all? Okay. Brittany, do you want to go to room 1 and I'll stay here and see if I can help?
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say if
Dr. Bell
anyone,
has a question.
yeah, if anyone needs to leave and rejoin the Zoom call, that may also um,
Help. Okay.
help. Yeah, we can always be a room in here. I'm only hesitant to go to breakout rooms because last time I did that, I couldn't get back to the main.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I will go, and maybe you just have a breakout room here with the folks here.
Yeah, that works. That totally works. All right. Anyone who is still here, we could be our own breakout room. So if you do want to participate and come off mute and talk about some ideas, you're welcome to.
Brittany.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm in room 4.
Okay.
No one else is wanting to even to attempt to use the board.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Fine.
and I'm trying to find out if I have to have an account because I'm not able to do anything when I click on anything regarding the board.
You may need to sign in with Google, but it should let you edit. Let me copy the link again. I'm going to put the link again in the chat. Sometimes, so if you are on the hand tool, that's for moving it. If you're on the cursor tool, like the clicker, then you can like tap into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just click on it. Um, and it's the same thing. When I go to it takes me it's on my browser. I can
Mhm.
see everyone else's names as they're inputting information, but like I see other groups, but I don't see anything that is allowing me to do something or set up something for my group.
Okay. Where are you on the board right now? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, cool. Can you hover over here where I'm making circles?
I don't see you making a circle.
Do you see Dr. Mosley's cursor? Oh, she's moved
I
it.
do.
Okay, right under there. If you can go to that like orange one that's highlighted now. If you can bring your cursor there. Okay, there you are. You're anonymous. Okay. Do you see anything in your bottom corner here? Do you see this toggle? It says hand tool. On the
No,
left hand of the screen, there's a taskbar.
no,
You don't see anything like that. Okay.
no.
You may need to sign in. It's free with your Jackson State Gmail. How is it going, Candace? I'm thinking about switching up groups in 5 minutes. Do you think that would be a good idea? Or should we just let them? Oh, you're on mute.
Well, I do because one, no one wanted to attempt to even do it in my group. And two, they are talking about something completely different, not was on the sheet.
That's fine
So,
too. We can come back together maybe and discuss all as like a bigger group. Do you think that would be
I
better?
think so because I think people are, I know for me, trying to get signed in and then talk and type at the same time, I can't do it.
Okay,
So
that's totally fine. So maybe I'll just put a message. Let me see. I'll just broadcast something here. You don't have to use the board.
okay, I signed up. It's waiting for them to send me a link.
I just broadcasted a message that says you don't have to use the board. You can just chat. And I said, we'll come back in 5 minutes maybe, and then just discuss together. Okay, I see your cursor. You should now be able to, if you double click on a sticky note, you should be able to write things in it now.
Okay. I'm trying to get through all of these questions it's asking me. All right. So, okay, now I can see everything else.
Yeah, it's
All
really annoying.
right. So I don't see the invitation anymore to go back to the room.
You can stay here with us if you want, because we can talk about the questions. If that's better.
Okay.
We're going to close those breakout rooms in about 3 minutes anyway. Did you have any ideas? What is your teaching area? And if you were
I
gonna, what
I
would?
teach English, and I took a course through Macmillan about developing policy for your courses using AI, and I've also kind of ventured on my own with the program that I found to try to create, especially for English, AI resistant assignments.
Mhm,
So I've tried a few of those over the past few semesters. So it's more like more so you still have to have use critical thinking skills,
mhm,
even if you um which they still do, use chat GPT to generate your content.
mhm,
So it's not, they still have to, like for one assignment with the definition essay. So in order to define the term, I have them to use images um, as part of the definition and include audio narration to explain how I think we used the term leadership. So they had to find images or scenes that depict their definition of effective leadership. And so the audio narration, they had to explain the connection to um, their annotation for the image and explain it as a part of their definition. So it wasn't as simple as copying content from AI.
So it sounds like if we were going to think about that as a general education course, it could be something like AI for multimodal, um, literary analysis. So
Right.
multimodal meaning, it's AI, but then you layer on top of that your audio, your images, and how does that all come together? So maybe there's a whole course that gets developed around that kind of exploration. Um, so that could be an idea for sure. I can see how that would work. I'm going to close these breakout rooms and we can bring everyone back and talk about it.
So I just want to um for the and I think more so for upper level, you can kind of navigate it, but starting out with freshmen, incoming students, really something about ethics and over reliance, because that
Mm-hmm.
was one of the things with the Macmillan is how to navigate over reliance and
Mm-hmm.
providing information to students regarding that and setting up boundaries or penalties, maybe giving a certain percentage of usage for some assignments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really tricky and it's going to be hard to find that balance because I think with the pathway we really want to encourage, use and education, but then still balance that with things like the issues of over reliance. So it's going to be tricky to strike that balance.
Right, because I tried it as far as like helping with brainstorming
Mhm.
for English assignments, but you always have those that take it, you know, a step further and use the whole thing rather than just that portion of the assignment.
Right. Welcome back, everyone. How did that go? I heard that maybe dealing with the board was not the most beneficial, so I thought we could all come back and maybe share out ideas instead. Did anyone have some really interesting things that came up for them in their group discussion?
One of the things I'm interested in exploring more about that came out of our group is how do you provide a way for students to be able to monitor their own feedback of how they're doing with regard to the course. So, of course, the instructor does that. So, as we are moving through the process, are there ways to engage the student in their own evaluation of how they're doing? So, developing courses that will help them meter their own behavior in some ways. And I think some of that comes through policy. I know we talked about policy, and I think we've gotten some guidance about that. But I do like maybe the introduct a course that's introductory about ethics and AI. I think that with respect to the discipline too, is going to be very, very important, especially where in those disciplines where there's a lot of attention to detail, and the transfix transpose of a number could mean millions of dollars down the tubes or something like that. Helping people learn how to critically evaluate what they're getting out of the system, and metering themselves along the way. So something, people, I think the sense that there's a sense that maybe some exposure to ethics and some of the issues around ethics and AI might be a good launch pad across different disciplines.
Yeah, I would strongly agree with that. So I'm glad that that came up in discussions. I was at a talk that Dr. Ashley Cephas was giving, and she said there's a very different risk involved if the AI is recommending a song for you versus if it's analyzing whether a skin lesion is cancerous, right? So we want to have the risk, have students appreciate the risks that are involved as you.
Yes, that the medical folk, Dr. Ricketts used a medical example as well, and I thought it was really, very appropriate to what we're discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the idea that it may be discipline specific, I think intellectual property is a major thing that impacts fine arts, but it could be that we can partner with colleagues in English who are looking at that in terms of literature. So I think that there are some of these kind of overlaps, these Venn diagrams between these disciplines where these ethical issues are very, very present or kind of at the fore. How did everyone else do? You're welcome to put it in the chat as well, if that would be easier. We're quite a large group here. But let us know. Did anyone come up with what they think is a really cool, amazing idea for a kind of course topic or course ideas?
Good morning, colleagues. This is Dr. McKinney from the School of Social Work. I don't know about a really cool idea, but it's interesting that Dr. Mosley brought up the ethical piece. And Dr. Key was in the break room with us, and she talked about that she's teaching a course in AI ethics. And I think that's a great thing. I was thinking about social work because we have a very strict code of ethics. And I think some of our students just feel like, okay, I can just shoot from the hip and write anything without critically thinking what I have to do and how it's going to affect my clients if I cheat now and then cheat a little bit more later on. So I think the ethical piece is a great point. Also, I think the certification, but not just the students, but for faculty too, would be a great piece.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to hype up the Mississippi AI Collaborative. I'm just going to drop this link here, MississippiAI.org. If you go to that website, there are free certifications on that website. Maine, the Mississippi AI Network, is another space in which there are kind of free course offerings. So yes, if you're looking to advance, your own learning, definitely access some of those free resources.
I also think that students can explore, and especially in a lot of our areas, the biases that some of the tools will inadvertently produce because of how they have been how the information has been generated. And I think that would be good for them to explore. And then, even some of the solutions that are being built using AI to look at, does this tool have, is this solution that we've developed generalizable to all populations? And I can see that coming out in healthcare. I can see it, being there for, a number of our areas where the solution has been based, or the recommendation of how to educate children, might be different because of how the solution tool has been generated. So even the feedback from it is biased in one way or another, and how we might be able to augment some of the solutions and learnings that have been developed. I think helping students begin to think about their education and ways that they may contribute to improved outcomes for the populations that they serve.
Definitely. And I can see opportunities again for sort of crossovers between, data science and maybe computer vision when it comes to things like, is it facial recognition, or all of these systems. So again, I think some really interesting interdisciplinary overlaps could come out of thinking through those courses.
Yeah, facial recognition. And we do have a student on campus that is doing some facial recognition work. And so you do inevitably have students who are working on these kind of tools, but being, maybe having some solutions where we're all working, or in a course where all the students are working on the improvement of facial recognition tools. That would be really, maybe a more advanced course, but certainly an idea for a course that would be really would benefit from that kind of directed focus.
One thing that I was thinking about, and it kind of started last week, and then you mentioned this again, Dr. Mosley, the self-regulated learning, sort of metacognition that you can help the students kind of become comfortable with. That maybe one thing we might think about for some of our existing courses, and I'm particularly thinking about university success at this moment, is there's a great opportunity to use AI to help students become independent, self-regulated learners.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's when they're making that transition. Um, just to be able to assess their own learning, to make a plan for next steps, take ownership of their academic growth. I mean, certainly, we can do it in our own classes, but that was one thought I've been having.
And what we're seeing, and I don't know if anybody's read the latest article in the Atlantic that talks about college students in reading. And we lost a lot during these past 4 years because we were just really trying to survive. And so now we're trying to ramp up some of the moments lost, and to really have opportunities for students to discuss, I think about children who, even when they can't go to school. I'm in Nebraska, and, of course, it was 5 yesterday, 5 degrees. And so, but they were talking about the lost learning that students are getting by virtual, because you're saying, hey, here's a laptop, my child, she's learning because she's at the desk and she is in front of the computer. But is that child really learning? And so helping in education, maybe thinking about, if I had to develop a tool to help mark that point in time, either through a timed reading experience or reading comprehension check, how might I do that? How might we create environments where we can do pulse checks on, different behaviors that we want to see in students who are progressing and learning? And so, helping people get those kinds of skills, that how can I put some exercises in place for when I get to be a school teacher, that will help students maintain some level of ground through the use of a AI tool.
We are getting to the end of the hour, and I don't know what everyone's next steps are as far as you can stay on and talk more, absolutely. But Dr. Myberg and Dr. Mosley, what would you recommend in terms of this AI Gen Ed pathway about people finding a space to collaborate? And let me say that Dr. Hernandez, Pedro Hernandez, and Dr. Brittany Myberg will be working together, hopefully in the Innovation Center next Friday. So maybe, bring your ideas. Dr. Hernandez is going to talk about some hands-on AI tools. Even if you're not ready to create a whole new course, some collaborative work with folks. What are your recommendations for the next steps for those from your experience?
Um, Dr. Pozzetta, I think it's very important to set up a visible AI policy in the past. I fully believe the balance between creativity and the regulation. So I think if we do the AI policy right, the things that you talk um, about self-regulated learning and cognitive and metacognitive things um, should flow well. But we need to set up the AI policy, and I have my AI policy in all my courses, but it doesn't seem to work. Whether you will have some good suggestion and what is the next step to draft the AI policy for this pathway.
I think that's a great point. Dr. Myberg, I think, dropped in the chat the JSU's general AI policy and the guidelines there. It's going to take a while for us all because you can have a policy, but ensuring that students are following it and they're aware, what that really means. I think that one of the things that we are learning is that you have to be really transparent yourself about your use of AI and then require students to be transparent. So if you want them to use AI, then they have to print out what they did and bring it to class. And, it is.
Yes, I agree. That's on my AI policy, but they didn't.
Yeah.
No one has turning anything to me yet. That's what I require. If you use AI, you need to let me know and write a reflection notes on how you used it. And so far, it didn't work because they just refused to do it.
Right. And I think part of it is you making it optional for them. They're going to choose not to opt in. So make AI and the feedback part of the grade. So I expect you to use AI in this way, and I want you to print out evidence of how you've used it, as opposed to if you use AI, because we know, they get in a jam and they're like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do it this one time. She won't know. Right. Dr. Mosley, you have any thoughts about that?
But if I mandate students to use AI all the time, that doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah.
So
I think we do have to change our assessments and how the goals that we're competencies we want to establish for the course, and what are the means by which we try to get them. I did start working with English, my colleagues in English, in their suggestion of getting a sample of writing. And that has really helped me, get low stakes, nothing heavy, but just a pop-up 5 minute, hey, give me your thoughts on this idea. And so when I get some Nobel Prize award winning essay, I know that it is quite different. And it's not a gotcha or anything. It's like, no, I want to hear, this was an exercise where I needed to hear from you and how you evaluate ideas. And I do kind of go through that. But I hear you, but I think in terms of next steps, I think we could provide some guidelines of what courses need to look like, and we have put out a link about what the syllabus has to include. But I think there have been some ideas that we've talked about, that maybe we can load those on to some of the ideas that we're suggesting about courses and potential areas, so that maybe that will also provoke some ideas about work. And I know that it is very uneasy to start moving into some of these spaces, because it's like, oh my goodness. But we really felt the same way about online courses, and I remember when people were really upset about putting anything online, or doing this. So I do think that we're headed in the right direction. I love the ideas about where we could go with research. Even there's some entry level research ideas that I think would be good for first year students, especially in some of our life sciences, natural sciences. I could see some entry level work being done in that regard as well, and we have some data that we could be working together to generate. So I know it's tough, but as we're learning more, we are going to get better.
Yeah, and I think I would totally echo that and add to it that one of the ways that students will be empowered to become critical of these technologies is if they understand them and if they use them. We have to kind of pull back the curtain and make sure that they fully understand how do these things work. So rather than just saying to them, don't use it, why are we saying that? How does this work? How is that different from human cognition and the skill sets that you have? Why is it important that your foundational level is problem solving and critical thinking, and AI is a layer? It's a level above that. It does not replace this bottom level. So I think it's really, really important that we educate students on how AI works. We make sure that we're speaking to them honestly and accurately about what these systems do, what they're capable of, what they're not capable of. And I think that will enable them to be more critical. And I'm going to do a pitch for history as well. I think it's important that we teach the history of AI, right? This is not something that just came out of nowhere. It's been 50 years in development. Some of the things that we're seeing now are based on decisions that computer programmers made in the 1950s. Students should be aware of that, so that they can critique the basis of this technology, and they can understand why it's biased and it excludes them. So yeah, I think that we will have more critical students if we actually engage them in what this is.
All right. So I want to thank everyone for coming. I mentioned the session next Friday, but if you're working on a Gen Ed AI course and you just want to get together with other people working on Gen Ed AI courses, we'll send out an email follow up with all the great links and everything from today, and a link to the recording. I think it would be wonderful to kind of get your ideas together, start a syllabus, and sit down with your colleagues, in person or virtually. It's hard to get people to come to rooms together anymore, but and just talk through some of the problems. Get other people who are interested together to share those. So I'll be checking to see who's interested. Maybe we can get Dr. Myberg and Dr. Mosley to
Yeah, it'd
come
be
in,
great.
feedback.
Yeah,
So, do you guys remember off the top of your head? I know that AI Gen Ed proposals are due sometime in March. Is that
Yeah.
right? It's really
Yeah, because we
soon.
were just trying to work with when they would have to go through
Right.
committee. And they are ultimately due the 21st of March.
Okay. So if you're not going to be
But if
ready
you,
by
but
then,
if you,
that's not the end. That just means for this year, you can
yeah,
still work on one for the next year. Uh,
yes.
just
And if you are interested in doing one or you think you are going to propose, of course, let us know. So we can, be thinking about how we, mark you down and make sure you're involved in any changes
uh-oh.
or
There we go. You froze for a sec.
ideas are churning. Oh no. But if you have any ideas, anything we can do, go on and tell us that you're thinking about offering a course so we can start pushing some resources to you too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both. Thank all of you. I mean, I can see the excitement. I've been getting emails all day. I can't come at 11. Can I see what there is out there? So there are lots of people. Um, and I appreciate everyone, working with the breakout rooms and the Fig Jam board. Now we know what our students go through when we ask them to do something new. It's great, though. I really enjoyed it. Thank you all. There will be a session next Friday. It will be on Zoom, but I believe we're going to have a face-to-face component if we can get all that together. But watch your email. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Candice, please give me a call. This is Dr.
I will.
Hernandez. Thank
Yes,
you.
we'll talk about your session as soon as we get off.
And didn't you say that the Friday seminar was face to face? Because I just signed up for it.
Oh, that link I put in the chat is for a symposium. It's an interdisciplinary AI symposium. That'll be March 28th. But the one next week should be face to face. Yeah.
It'll
Okay,
have a Zoom component for those people who can't come. But
so I signed up for something. I'm it's over my head, Brittany.
I don't think so. No, I think you're perfect. Everyone should sign up for it.
Okay, and all right. So I signed up for something in March, not next Friday.
That's right.
Not
I'll send out an email. I try not to send out the emails at the same time, but I'll wait until one session's over before I send out the next email. So
Okay,
you'll
all right.
get an email this afternoon about next week.
Now, how come my Fig Jam didn't work? I'm kind of upset about that. I verified it and got an account and everything.
You know what? It used to be really straightforward where you just shared the link and everyone was fine and they could use it. And I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to have to find a much more streamlined alternative. So it's not you. It's everyone has having that issue.
So,
I have to run to another meeting.
the good news is that you can get a free pro license if you're an educator, because I just did. So
Yeah.
just
Okay.
And I'm happy, Karen, to meet with you sometime and walk through it on Zoom if you want.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I like hanging around you. You're fun. You're cool.
All right, everyone. I'm gonna go now, grab some lunch. We hope to see you next Friday.